Next topic is the ripple tank. What is the ripple tank and why we use the ripple tank? It is basically the apparatus which is used to produce the water waves and also analyze their properties. Means that with the help of the ripple tank we can produce the water waves and also we can analyze the properties of the water waves. First of all, see the apparatus that is associated with the ripple tank. Here is the experimental setup for the ripple tank. You can see there are different components. One is the bulb which is hanging at the top. It is because of the reason when you have to see the water waves, the bulb is used. Here is also the rectangular tray with the glass bottom and it is elevated almost half meter above the surface of the table. Like you can see, here is a rectangular tray. The vibrator is also placed here. It's basically the vibrator. The vibrator can be used to generate the waves on the surface of the water in the tray. Basically the vibrator consists of the electric motor. You can see here is also the power supply. It means that the vibrator consists of the electric motor which oscillates and it is mounted on the wooden plate. This plate is basically the wooden plate. The vibrator is mounted over the wooden plate and it consists of the electric motor, so that its lower surface just touches the surface of the water. The wooden plate vibrates when the power supply is turned on. By turn on the power supply, the vibrator vibrates, due to which the wooden plate that is attached with the vibrator, it also starts vibrating. And because of its vibration, the water waves are produced here. And when you have to see the image of the water waves, the bulb is hanging at the top. It is used to observe the water waves. And the water waves that are produced here, it is represented by the dark and the bright lines. You can also see here at the bottom, here is also the water waves that is shown by the bright and dark lines. Now I go back. You can see here, the ripple tank is the apparatus that is used to produce the water waves and analyze their properties. So the ripple tank is used to produce the water waves and analyze their properties. The apparatus comprises of a rectangular tray with a glass bottom that is elevated to about half a meter above the table surface. The ripple tank consists of the rectangular tray which has the glass bottom and it is elevated almost half meter above the surface of the table. The second part is the vibrator. The vibrator is also be called as paddle. It can be used to generate the waves on the water surface in the tray. This vibrator consists of the electric motor that oscillates and it is mounted on the wooden plate above the tray, so that its lower surface just touches the water surface. The vibrator is basically the electric motor that vibrates and also it is mounted on the wooden plate, so that when the electric motor vibrates, the wooden plate also vibrates and the water waves are produced on the surface of the water. This wooden plate begins vibrating when the vibrator is turned on, producing the water waves with the straight wave front. In order to see the image of the water waves on the screen, an electric bulb is suspended above the tray. On the screen, the wave crest and troughs are represented by the dark and the bright lines respectively, because the water wave consists of the crest and trough, and these are represented by the dark and the bright line on the screen. So in this way you can produce the water waves. Now we will see that how we can analyze the water waves. Based on the ripple tank experiment, there are basically three very important phenomena. First of all, here is the reflection at the plane surface. Let's say you take any barrier and how the water waves are reflected here. You will see it in the reflection at the plane surface. After that, here is the refraction of the wave. Like when the wave goes from one medium to another, then what will happen? You will study this in the refraction of the wave. And also here is the diffraction of the water wave. You will learn all of these one by one. So first of all, let's start with the reflection at the plane surface. How the water waves are reflected by the plane surface. With the help of the ripple tank experiment, you can easily understand what is meant by the reflection of the water wave. In the ripple tank, you need to place here a barrier, and it should be at some angle. Because of this barrier, when the water waves comes here, they gets reflected. If this barrier is basically at some angle, and let's say here are some water waves that strike this barrier, then what will happen? The water waves will be reflected in this direction in the same medium, such that in this case, if I draw here any normal line at the point of incidence, just like this, consider this to be the normal line. I will tell you later about the normal line. The water wave here is reflected in such a way that the angle that the incident ray makes with the normal line, if I say it to be 1, it gets equal to the angle that the reflected ray makes with the normal. Let's say it 2. So 1 is equals to 2. According to the reflection at the plane surface, if you take any barrier in the ripple tank and then water waves strike this barrier, they gets reflected, such that the angle that these reflected rays makes with the normal is basically equals to the angle that the incident water waves makes with the normal line. So how you can define the reflection? Reflection is basically when the wave travels from one medium and strike the boundary of the another medium, then it basically comes back into the same medium. There is no change in the medium in the reflection. You can see in this figure the reflection of the hand in the water. The hand is above the water, but you can see its reflection below the water. So you can see here, with the help of ripple tank, the reflection of the water waves can be demonstrated. In the ripple tank, put a barrier. The barrier will cause the water waves to reflect. Because of this barrier that you place here, the water wave reflected. If the barrier is at some angle to the wavefront, then the angle of incident wave with the normal line is equals to the angle of reflected wave with the normal line. So I can simply say that 1 and 2 angles are equal according to the reflection. Then how you can define the reflection of the wave? When the wave travels through one medium, strikes the surface of the another medium, they reflect back into the first medium at an angle that is equals to the angle of incidence. Means that the waves which is reflected, it makes the angle with the normal line. This angle should be equals to the angle of the incident wave with the normal line. Here we will see what is meant by the normal line, what is the angle of incidence and what is the angle of reflection. First of all, see this diagram. Here are the incident wavefront. Here is also the incident wave which is shown by the red wave. This one is basically the incident wave. When the incident wave comes here and strike the barrier, then what will happen? So basically at the point where the incident wave strikes the barrier, you need to draw here the line, which is basically called as the normal line. This normal line is basically makes an angle of 90 degree with the barrier. You can see here the dotted line is basically the normal line because it makes an angle of 90 degree with the barrier. After that, the incident wave gets reflected by striking the barrier, such that here the I is basically the angle of incidence and R is the angle of reflection, such that the angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of these gets equal. So I can simply say that in the reflection, the angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of these are equal. There is also the reflected wavefront shown, but the reflected wave is shown again by the red line. Now you can see here the definitions of the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. What is the angle of incidence? Angle of incidence is the angle made by the incident ray with the normal line. The normal line is basically the dotted line, but the incident line is basically shown by the red. Let me write here incident wave. So the incident wave makes an angle I with the normal line. This angle is basically called as the angle of incidence, because the angle of incidence is the angle that always make with the incident ray and the normal line. After that, here is the angle of reflection. It is the angle that reflected ray makes with the normal line. You can see here the reflected ray, and it makes an angle of R with the normal. Then R angle is basically here the angle of reflection, because the angle of reflection is the angle between the reflected ray and the normal line. According to the reflection by the barrier, both of these angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of these has to be equal. I write here I is equals to R. Angle of incidence is equals to angle of reflection. You can also observe here the angle of incidence I and angle of reflection R in this diagram. Both of these are equal. So this is a very important concept in the reflection, that the angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of these have to be equal. Sometime here might be a question that the angle of incidence is given and here is the reflection of the wave. Then what will be the angle of the reflection? You can simply use here the concept angle of incidence is equals to angle of reflection. Then you can easily find out the angle of reflection here. Here is a simulation related with the reflection of the wave. Let's open this. The alpha angle is basically the incident angle of incidence that the incident ray makes with the normal line. Basically the incident ray is shown by the dotted blue line, while the normal is the black dotted line. The reflected wave is the red dotted line. So the angle of incident is shown by the alpha, which is 60 degree. This angle makes between the incident ray and the normal line. Alpha prime is the angle of reflection, the angle that the reflected ray makes with the normal line. You can see here if I change the angle of incidence, accordingly the angle of reflection will also change. Let me decrease the angle of incidence to 34 degrees. You can see the alpha prime, which is the angle of reflection, it also changes. Now I will change the angle of incidence and let's say it is 69 degrees. Then you can also observe the angle of reflection also changes and it becomes 69 degree. So I can simply say that the angle of reflection and the angle of incidence, both of these have to be equal. Let's go back. Here is the examination tips. In the process of the reflection, make sure that the angle of incidence is equals to the angle of reflection. Wavelength doesn't change before and after reflection from the plane surface. So basically I already tell you that in the reflection the angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of these are equal. And the second and very important thing, that there is no effect on the wavelength. During the reflection the wavelength of the wave is not changing, it remains the same. Here is the exam question that appeared in October-November 2017. The diagram represents the plane wavefront of the water wave about to strike a solid barrier. So these are the wavefronts that are striking the solid barrier, and this is basically arrow showing the direction of these wavefronts. These are basically moving towards the barrier. Which diagram shows the position of the wavefronts after reflection at the barrier? So what will be the position of the wavefronts after they get reflected by this solid barrier? When you have to find out the direction of the reflected rays at the barrier, then what you need to do? First of all, you can see here the incident ray is going in the horizontal direction and strikes the barrier. At this point, you need to draw here the normal line. The normal line is this line, which is perpendicular to the barrier. Then you need to draw here the reflected ray, such that this angle, which is the angle of incidence, it also equals to the angle of reflection. So the reflected ray basically moves in upward direction, so that the angle of refraction are also equals to the angle of incidence. This red line is basically showing the direction of the reflected ray, and you can also see in the figure the wavefronts and the direction of the travel of both of these are making an angle of 90 degree. It means that here the angle is 90 degree. You need to draw here the wavefront perpendicular to the direction of the reflection, just like that. So this would be the direction of the reflected wavefront. You just need to follow here the procedure. Draw the incident ray direction. Then at this point draw the normal line. After drawing the normal line, considering that the angle of incidence and angle of reflection both of these are equal, draw the reflected line which shows the direction of the reflected wavefront. And the wavefront are always perpendicular to the incident ray or the reflected ray. The wavefront makes an angle of 90 degree here. That's why this is the direction of the reflected wavefronts after striking the barrier. Let's see the answer. In the answer A, the wavefronts are going in opposite direction because the incident wavefront are towards the right, but the reflected are towards the left, which is incorrect. In the answer B, these are basically going at some angle. This is also incorrect. The answer C is correct. Why the answer C is correct? Just compare both of these figures. In the answer C and the figure that I draw here, both of these are same. It means that the correct answer is C from here. Let's see the answer and explanation. The correct answer is C. According to the laws of reflection, the incident angle should be equal to the reflected angle. C diagram shows the reflected ray angle equals to the incident ray angle. Means that in the answer C, the angle of incidence and angle of reflection both of these are equal. That's why the correct answer is C. Let's go back and see again the answer C. If you observe the direction of the incident ray and also the direction of the reflected ray and also draw here the normal line, you will see that the angle of incidence and angle of reflection both of these are equal. That's why the correct answer is C. Refraction of the wave. What is meant by the refraction? Refraction means the change in direction. When the wave travels from one medium into another medium, because of the difference of the density of both of these medium, the direction of the wave changes. So this is called as the refraction. I can simply say that when the wave goes from one medium into another, then the direction of the travel of the wave changes. The change in the direction of the travel of wave is basically called as the refraction of the wave. You can see here the definition of the refraction of the wave. The direction of the travel of the wave changes when a wave from one medium enters into the second medium at some angle. In this diagram, you can see here the incident ray is shown by the red, and first of all it is in the substance 1. It makes an angle of incidence with the normal line, and when this enters into the substance 2, you can see here the direction of this wave changes. It has to travel in the same direction as that here in a straight line, but it bends towards the normal. And this angle is basically the angle of refraction. This phenomena is called as the refraction of the wave. The change in the direction of the wave as it goes from one medium into another is basically called as the refraction of the wave. You can also see here the normal line makes an angle of 90 degree with the surface. So normal line is any line that is perpendicular to the surface. In the second figure, if here is a pencil, observe this pencil inside and outside of the water. Inside the water the direction changes, showing that here is the refraction of the wave. Here is the change in medium due to which the direction changes. When the wave goes from one medium into another medium, the speed of the wave and wavelength of the wave, both of these changes, but the frequency remains same. So the speed of wave and the wavelength of the wave physically affected by the depth of the water. You can see here the speed of the water. The speed of a wave in a water is affected by the depth of the water. The depth of the water in the ripple tank will be shallow over a block. When it is submerged, then it will be elsewhere. The wavelength of the water wave shortens as they enters into shallow water. In the shallow water, the wavelength of the wave becomes smaller because here the speed of the wave decreases. You know the wave equation, which is V is equals to F lambda. Here F is the frequency, lambda is the wavelength and V is the speed of the wave. Here the frequency is not changing, it remains constant. That's why the speed and wavelength, both of these are directly proportional to each other. In the shallow water, the wavelength is smaller because here the wave travels slowly. The speed of the wave in the shallow water is smaller as compared to the deep water. The last and very important point, there is no change in the frequency of the water waves on both parts because it is identical to the frequency of the vibrator. There is no change in the frequency during the refraction of the wave. Even the medium is changing, but the frequency remains same. In this figure, you can see here the refraction of the water waves. The deep water is basically the region where here is the incident wavefront, and these are going into the shallow water. As here is the difference of the density, due to which the direction of the waves changes. In this figure, the incident wavefront and the reflected wavefronts are shown. The incident wavefront has to travel in the same direction also in the shallow water, just like this direction. But the direction changes because here is the difference of the density in the deep water and the shallow water. That's why the direction of the wavefront changes, which is basically called as the refraction. You can also see here the wavelength. In the deep water, the wavelength is basically the distance between any two consecutive wavefront, and in the deep water, the wavelength is larger as compared to the shallow water. In the shallow water, the distance between the wavefront is smaller, and in the deep water, the distance between the wavefront is larger. Depending upon the change in wavelength, there is also the change in the speed of the wave. The waves move slowly in the shallow water because the speed of the wave decreases in the shallow water as the wavelength decreases. But in the deep water, as the wavelength is larger, means that here the waves will move faster as compared to the shallow water. But there is no change in the frequency in both of these medium. Means that in the shallow water and deep water, there is no change in the frequency. Here is the examination tips. Remember that refraction is the change in speed of the ray as it changes the medium. Change of the direction is the consequence of this. Basically, the refraction is the change in the direction of the wave. The wavelength doesn't remain same in the refraction. As the speed changes, due to which the wavelength also change. A ray of the light goes from highly denser medium in low denser medium. The speed and wavelength, both of these increases, but the frequency remains same. There is no change in the frequency of the wave. So I can simply say, when the wave is going from shallow water into deep water, the speed and wavelength, both of these increases, but there is no change in the frequency of the wave. Here is the exam question that appeared in May-June 2016. A water wave passes into a region where the water travels more slowly As it passes into the slow region, what happens to the frequency and what happens to the wavelength of the wave? So you have to explain here what will be the effect on the frequency and wavelength when the water waves moves into the region where the waves moves slowly. Let's see the answers. Frequency and the wavelength. Answer A, decreases remains the same. B, increases remains the same. C, remains the same decreases. D, remains the same increases. So first of all, you know that in the refraction, there is no change in the frequency. The frequency remains the same. What happens to the wavelength? According to the wave equation, V is equals to F lambda. When the frequency remains same, the speed of the wave is directly proportional to the wavelength. It means that when the speed increases, the wavelength also increases. And when the speed decreases, the wavelength also decreases. Both of these are directly proportional to each other. In the question, it's given that the water wave passes into the region where the water waves travels more slowly. Means that the speed decreases. So where the speed decreases, of course the wavelength also decreases. It means that the frequency remains same and the wavelength decreases here. You can see here the answer. It is given in the answer C. Let's see the answer and explanation. When wave travels from one medium into another medium, its speed changes because it depends upon the medium, but the frequency remains constant. According to the wave equation, speed of the wave is equals to frequency multiplied by wavelength, where frequency does not change in the refraction. When the frequency doesn't change, then the speed and wavelength, both of these are directly proportional to each other. As the wave travels slowly, means that at the decreasing speed. Therefore, the wavelength also decreases, but there is no effect on the frequency of the wave. The frequency remains same but the wavelength decreases. That's why the correct answer is C. Let's go back and see the answer C. In the answer C, it's given that the frequency remains same but the wavelength decreases. That's why the correct answer is C from here. Next is the diffraction. It is also the property of the water waves that you can study with the help of ripple tank. So what is meant by the refraction? In the ripple tank, first of all, you need to produce here the straight water waves and take the two obstacles which are just like the barrier and keep both of these barriers in such a way that there is a small distance between both of these. Then the water waves, when going between this distance, depending upon the distance between the barrier and also the wavelength. This water waves basically spread in all directions after passing through the barrier and even they bend into the semicircular pattern. This is basically called as the diffraction. When the water waves are going between the opening of the barriers, then they basically spread into the semicircular shape, which is called as the diffraction. In this figure, you can see these are the water waves that are coming and the solid black lines are showing here the obstacles are the barrier. There is a small distance between both of these barriers. When the water wave passing through this barrier, they basically bend into the semicircular shape. And the direction of the travel of this wave is perpendicular to this semicircular shape, which is shown by this arrow. You can see here, in a ripple tank, create the straight waves and align the two obstacles so that the distance between them is equals to the wavelength of the water wave. The distance between these two obstacles is basically equals to the wavelength of the water wave. The wave will spread out in all directions and bend into an almost semicircular pattern after passing through a narrow gap between the two obstacles. So how you can define the diffraction? Diffraction is basically the bending of the waves as they passing through the opening of the two obstacles. You can see here, we define the diffraction of the wave as the diffraction is used to describe how the waves bend or spread out around the sharp corners or the edges of the obstacles or opening. So in the diffraction, we basically studied at how the waves spread out around the edges of the obstacle. Basically, the amount of bending when the wave passing through the separation between two barriers depends upon the distance between the barrier and the wavelength. You need to compare the wavelength of the water waves with the distance between both of these obstacles. If I say that the distance between the obstacle is represented by the d and the wavelength is represented by the lambda. If the distance is smaller or it is equals to the wavelength, in this way there should be the large diffraction. But if I consider that the distance between the obstacles is larger than the wavelength, then here should be the small diffraction. Means that the small bending of the water waves. Let's understand this with the help of figure. In this figure you can see first figure showing that the distance between the barrier is basically d and the wavelength is the distance between any two wavefront. The distance d is basically smaller than the wavelength. Then what will happen? There is more diffraction. The water waves bends into the semicircular pattern after passing through this opening. But in the second figure, you can see the distance between both of these obstacles is very large as compared to the wavelength. When this condition happens, there is only very small amount of the diffraction. So I can simply say that here is the minor diffraction. The water waves can never bend into the semicircular shape after passing through the barrier when the distance between the obstacle is very large as compared to the wavelength. So this is the difference between both of these. By comparing the distance between the barrier and also the wavelength, you can simply guess that where the diffraction is smaller and where it is larger. Let's go back and see it again. Here you can see when the slit separation is comparable or smaller than the wavelength of the wave, the distance between the barrier is basically called as the slit separation. When it is comparable or smaller than the wavelength, then there would be the large diffraction that can be viewed clearly. But in the second case, when the slit separation is larger than the wavelength of the wave, there would be the minor amount of the diffraction of the wave. Means that the water waves bends very little amount. Here is the examination tips. There is no change in the wavelength during the process of the diffraction. You observe that in the refraction the wavelength changes and also the speed of the wave changes. But during the process of diffraction, here is no effect on the wavelength of the wave. The wavelength before diffraction and after diffraction, it remains the same. Don't confuse while explaining how much diffraction happens for a wave. Just compare here the slit separation with the wavelength of the wave. If the slit separation is smaller or comparable to the wavelength of the wave, then here would be the large diffraction. But if the slit separation is larger than the wavelength, then here would be the small diffraction. You can see here the amount of diffraction depends upon the wavelength. The wavelength, if the wavelength is larger than the slit separation, then the large diffraction occurs. But if the wavelength is smaller than the slit separation, then the small diffraction occurs. So by comparing the wavelength with the slit separation, you can easily guess that when the smaller and when the large diffraction occur. Diffraction through the edges of the obstacle. Before that, we consider that there are two obstacles and there is a small distance between them. Then how the waves gets diffracted. But in this case, we have to see that how the waves gets diffracted after passing through the edges of the obstacle. There is only one obstacle and by this edges the waves basically gets refracted. So when the water waves goes towards the other side of the obstacle towards right, here there would be the small amount of diffraction. But the bending basically occurs for the waves closer to the region of the obstacle, because you can see all other wavefront is basically the straight, only there is the small bending closer to the obstacle. So I can simply say that the water waves also gets reflected when they comes towards the edges of the obstacle. Here we will observe that in the ripple tank how the wavelength is affected with the frequency. First of all, see here is a vibrating generator that vibrates and produces the water waves. In the first figure and in the second figure, just see the wavelength and the frequency. When the vibrating motor vibrates, the frequency in the first figure is basically 1.5 Hz because there is only 1.5 wave. But in the second figure, the frequency is larger. There is basically total 6 Hz frequency because total 6 waves are present here in the second diagram. When in the first figure, the frequency is smaller, the wavelength would be larger. Because the wavelength and frequency, both of these are inversely proportional to each other. You know the wave equation, which is V is equals to F lambda. According to this relation, you know that as the speed of the water wave is almost constant, that's why when the speed remains constant, the frequency and wavelength, both of these are inversely proportional to each other. When the frequency increases, the wavelength decreases. And when the wavelength increases, the frequency decreases because both of these are inversely proportional to each other. In the first figure, when the frequency decreases, means that the frequency is smaller, the wavelength will be larger because both of these are inversely proportional to each other. In the second diagram, when the frequency is larger, accordingly the wavelength should be small. You can also see here the arrow that I put here to show the wavelength. In the first figure, the arrow length is larger as compared to second figure, showing that in the first figure when the frequency is smaller, the wavelength is larger, and in the second figure when the frequency is larger, the wavelength should be small. Both of these are inversely proportional to each other. Here is the example question. The wavefronts in the diagram spread out after passing through a gap in a barrier. This is an example of the diffraction. Which change will increase the spreading out of the wavefronts? In this diagram, you can see here there are the wavefront and these are approaching the barrier. Now, how you can increase the spreading out of the wavefronts means that here you want to increase the amount of diffraction. I already tell you that the amount of diffraction basically depends upon the wavelength and the slit separation. It means that here you need to compare the wavelength with the slit separation. You know that wavelength is the distance between two consecutive wavefronts, means that this distance is basically called as wavelength, and the distance between both of these barrier represented with d. Now you have to compare both of these. In this case, the wavelength is smaller than the slit separation. That's why here is a very minor amount of the diffraction. So how you can increase the amount of the diffraction? It means that you can increase the amount of diffraction when you reduces the distance between both of these obstacles. It means that the d has to be reduced because in the figure it is very large, due to which here is the small diffraction. In order to increase the bending or the spreading out of the wavefronts, you need to decrease the separation between both of these obstacles. Let's see the answers. In the answer A, reduce the size of the gap and keep the wavelength same. Increase the size of the gap and keep the wavelength same. C, keep the size of the gap the same and reduces the wavelength. D, keep the size of the gap same and increases the frequency. So you can increase the spreading out of the wavefront by reducing the distance between the gap. So you can here increase the amount of spreading out by reducing the size of the gap, means that by reducing the d, by keeping the wavelength same. Let's see the answer and explanation. In this figure you can see here, in the first figure here is the large diffraction and it happens only when the gap the size of the gap is very small as compared to the wavelength. In the second figure, the size of the gap is larger as compared to the wavelength, due to which here is the small diffraction. Therefore, the correct answer is A. When you want to increase the amount of the diffraction, you need to decrease the size of the gap by keeping the wavelength same. Let's go back and see the answer A. In the answer A, it's given that reduces the size of the gap and keep the wavelength same. That's why the correct answer is A. Here are some questions for your practice. Let's see question number 1. The waves in the string has a speed of 2.0 meters per second. 4.0 complete waves passing through a point every 10 seconds. What is the wavelength of the wave? So basically here you are given the speed and the total number of waves that are passing through a point in 10 seconds. You have to calculate the wavelength of the wave. Question number 2. A wooden part vibrating into the water surface in a ripple tank has a frequency of 12 Hz. The resulting wave has a wavelength of 3 cm. What is the speed of the wave? So basically here the wavelength and the frequency is given. You need to find out the speed of the wave. Next question. What is the wavelength of the radio waves transmitted by the FM station at 90 MHz? Where 1 MHz is basically equals to 10 to the power 6 Hz. And the speed of the radio wave is 3 times 10 to the power 8 meters per second. Again you have to find out the wavelength when the speed and the frequency is given. The last question is that at one end of the ripple tank 80 cm across, a 5 Hz vibrator produces the waves whose wavelength is 40 mm. Find the time the wave need to cross the tank. So basically here you need to find out the time when the frequency, wavelength and the distance is given. Today's lesson is ended. If you find any difficulty you can ask. Thank you.